The Last Stand. The tactical display burned crimson, casting an eerie glow across Captain Maya Chen's face as she studied the approaching Zarketh warships. The UES Indomitable drifted silently in the void, its systems powered down to minimal life support. Their situation couldn't be more desperate. 6 months ago, the Zarketh Empire had emerged from the far reaches of the Orion Arm, their massive fleet laying waste to humanity's outer colonies without warning or mercy. Earth fell within weeks, its orbital defenses overwhelmed by technology centuries beyond human understanding. What had once been a thriving interstellar civilization of 37 colonies was reduced to pockets of resistance, disorganized and hopeless. The Indomitable was the last operational human battlecruiser. What remained of Earth fleet's once proud armada now consisted of scattered debris fields across a dozen star systems. "Status report," Chen demanded, her voice betraying none of the exhaustion that had accumulated over months of running, hiding, and occasionally fighting when no other option remained. Lieutenant Commander Ekura Nakamura, her XO, straightened at his station. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, his uniform wrinkled from too many hours at his post. "Hull integrity at 64%, Captain. We've sealed the breach in Section 12, but structural damage is extensive. Weapons. Main railguns are operational. Ammunition reserves at 42%. Missile bays 1 and 3 functional with 19 missiles remaining. Bay 2 is completely destroyed." Chen nodded. "And propulsion? FTL drive needs another 8 hours to cool down after our jump from Proxima. Sublight engines at 78% efficiency." The ship had taken heavy damage during their narrow escape from Proxima Centauri. They'd managed to evacuate almost 300 civilians before the colony fell, dropping them at a hidden outpost established in the ruins of an ancient alien structure deep in the Perseus Arm. "Life support is stable," reported Chief Engineer Rohan Mehta from the environmental station, "but food and water recycling systems are strained. At current consumption rates, we have approximately 18 days remaining." Chen's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced. 18 days. They needed supplies soon, but every populated system was now under Zarketh control or surveillance. "Captain." Communications specialist Luis Garcia's voice cut through the silence, excitement barely contained. "I've been working on decrypting that damaged transmission we received before leaving Proxima. I've broken through." The bridge crew collectively held their breath. Any communication from another human source was precious now. "What does it say?" Chen asked, carefully tempering the hope in her voice. Garcia swallowed. "It's from Admiral Warren. Sent just before Earth Command fell. I'm putting it on the main screen." The tactical display flickered, then showed the face of Admiral Eleanor Warren. The older woman looked haggard, a bleeding gash visible above her right eye. Explosions sounded in the background. "This message is for any surviving human vessels," the Admiral said, her voice crackling with static. "Earth has fallen. The defense fleet is destroyed. The Zarketh are methodically targeting all major human settlements." She coughed, wincing in pain. "If you're receiving this, you're among the few who escaped the initial assault. You are hereby authorized to engage in independent operations against the enemy. To any vessel with appropriate clearance, I am transmitting coordinates to Project Nemesis." Chen's eyes widened. Project Nemesis. It had been a whisper, a rumor among high-ranking officers after too many drinks, a doomsday weapon developed in secret after humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. "Coordinates received and verified," Garcia said quietly. "They point to the Epsilon Indi system, specifically to the fourth moon of the gas giant." Chen turned to Nakamura. "How far?" "At maximum FTL. About 5 days' journey, Captain," he replied after consulting his screen. "But the system is likely under Zarketh control now." "Or they may have overlooked it," countered Tactical Officer Layla Khan. "Our latest intelligence indicated the Zarketh were moving outward from Earth in a systematic pattern. Epsilon Indi isn't in the direction of any major human settlements." Chen considered this information. 5 days to reach a potentially enemy-controlled system, searching for a secret project that might not exist. But what choice did they have? Lieutenant Commander Sorensen, plot a course to Epsilon Indi using the moon as our destination, Chen ordered, straightening in her chair. We'll approach using minimal power, coming in from above the ecliptic to reduce detection probability. What about the civilians at the outpost, Captain? Asked Dr. Aiden Chen, the ship's chief medical officer and the captain's younger brother. We promised to return for them. And we will, Chen assured him. But first, we need to find something that can give us an edge. If Project Nemesis is real, it may be our only chance to turn the tide. As the bridge crew returned to their duties with renewed purpose, Chen pulled up information about Epsilon Indi on her personal screen. It was an unremarkable K-type star with 11 planets, including 2 gas giants with extensive moon systems. A perfect place to hide something you didn't want found. 8 hours later, the FTL drive had cooled sufficiently for another jump. The crew had used the time to conduct repairs, inventory supplies, and prepare for whatever they might find at their destination. FTL drive ready, Captain, reported Chief Engineer Meta over the comm. But I should warn you, we've been pushing it hard. The coolant system is showing signs of stress. We might only have 2 or 3 more jumps before we need major repairs. Understood, Chief, Chen acknowledged. We'll make this one count. All departments report ready, Captain, Nakamura announced. Chen took a deep breath. Lieutenant Commander Sorensen, engage FTL drive. Take us to Epsilon Indi. Aye, Captain. FTL engaging in 3, 2, 1. The stars on the view screen stretched into lines as the Indomitable leaped into faster-than-light travel. Chen watched the blur of light, her mind filled with both doubt and determination. Project Nemesis might be their salvation, or it might be nothing but a desperate hope. Either way, they were committed now. We're going hunting, she whispered to herself as the ship hurtled through the void, carrying with it perhaps the last free humans in the galaxy. The Indomitable dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Epsilon Indi system. Captain Chen ordered all systems to minimum power as they drifted toward the gas giant, using its massive radiation signature as cover. Anything, Lieutenant Khan? Chen asked quietly. Khan studied her console. No signs of Zarketh activity, Captain. The system appears clear. That's unusual, Security Chief Victor Dalton remarked. The Zarketh are thorough. They shouldn't have overlooked this system. Chen frowned. Unless they did check and found nothing worth their time. It took nearly 2 days to navigate to the 4th moon, a small cratered rock with no atmosphere. Following the coordinates from Admiral Warren's message, they approached its dark side. We've reached the exact coordinates, Captain, Sorensen announced. Chen leaned forward. Visual scan. The main screen showed only the barren lunar surface against the blackness of space. There's nothing here, Khan said, disappointed. No, Chief Engineer Meta disagreed, studying her scans. There's something. Look at that crater formation. She pointed to an unremarkable depression on the lunar surface. Its electromagnetic signature is too uniform, and I'm detecting trace energy readings underneath. Chen studied the innocent-looking crater. Bring us closer, Lieutenant Sorensen. Careful approach. As the Indomitable closed in, Meta continued her scans. Captain, I believe it's artificial. There's definitely a structure beneath the surface. When they were within 500 meters of the lunar surface, a tight beam transmission suddenly hit their communications array. Incoming message, Garcia reported with surprise. Audio only. Let's hear it, Chen ordered. A computerized voice filled the bridge. Unidentified vessel. Transmit Project Nemesis authorization code, or retreat immediately. You have 30 seconds to comply. Garcia looked up. Captain, the transmission included a frequency for response. Send the coordinates Admiral Warren provided as our authorization, Chen instructed. There was a tense wait after Garcia transmitted the information. Then, To everyone's amazement, a portion of the crater floor began to shift. Lunar dust cascaded as massive doors slid open, revealing a docking bay large enough to accommodate the Indomitable. "It's a hangar," Sorensen whispered in awe. "Take us in," Chen ordered. Slowly, the Indomitable eased into the concealed hangar. As soon as they were inside, the doors closed behind them. Interior lights activated automatically, illuminating a vast space carved from the moon's interior. "Atmosphere being pumped in," Khan reported. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, Earth standard. Temperature rising to habitable levels." Chen stood. "Chief Meta, assemble an engineering team. Lieutenant Dalton, prepare a security detail. Let's see what Project Nemesis really is." The boarding party consisted of 12 crew members, including Chen, Chief Engineer Meta, Security Chief Dalton, and Medical Officer Dr. Chen. They exited through the main airlock onto a dusty dock that hadn't seen human presence in years. Chief Engineer Meta whistled as they entered a cavernous main bay beyond the dock. "This place was built to last," she said, running her hand along a control panel that lit up at her touch. "And it's been waiting for us." The facility came to life around them. Lights activating, systems humming to power, holographic displays blinking into existence. It was clear that the facility had been designed to remain dormant until activated by authorized personnel. "Welcome to Project Nemesis," said a computerized voice. "Please identify commanding officer." Captain Chen stepped forward. "Captain Maya Chen, UES Indomitable." A holographic display appeared before her, showing Admiral Warren, a recording made years earlier when she was still a younger woman. "If you are seeing this message, then Earth has fallen or is at imminent risk," the hologram said. Project Nemesis was created as humanity's final contingency plan against extinction-level threats. The team spread out, exploring the facility as the recording continued to explain. They found laboratories, manufacturing areas, living quarters, and a central chamber housing something extraordinary. A device unlike anything they had ever seen, a pulsing core of energy suspended in a containment field. Chief Engineer Meta approached it cautiously, her scanner displaying readings she could barely comprehend. "Incredible," she breathed. "It's manipulating the fundamental forces between subatomic particles. This isn't just a weapon, it's a reality manipulator." The Admiral's hologram continued. "Project Nemesis is not simply a weapon. It's a revolutionary system that can disrupt the quantum field upon which the Zarketh technology operates. Their entire empire is built on a network of quantum entanglement. It's what makes their fleet so coordinated and deadly. Nemesis can sever those connections." Security Chief Dalton frowned. "If this technology is so powerful, why wasn't it deployed against the Zarketh immediately?" The hologram seemed to anticipate this question. "The system remains experimental. Initial tests revealed that an improperly calibrated Nemesis device could create cascading quantum disruptions with catastrophic consequences beyond our target. Further development was needed to ensure safe operation." Dr. Chen was examining another terminal. According to these logs, the research team was recalled to Earth for an emergency just 2 months before the Zarketh attack. They never returned. Captain Chen turned to Chief Engineer Meta. "Can you make sense of this technology?" Meta was already immersed in the technical schematics displayed on multiple screens. "It's incredibly advanced, Captain, but the principles are sound. The Nemesis system creates controlled disruptions in quantum fields, the same fields the Zarketh use for their communications and ship coordination. So it could disrupt their networks." Chen asked. "More than that," Meta said, excitement growing in her voice. "Their entire fleet operates on quantum entanglement principles. With this," she gestured to the pulsing core, "we could potentially disrupt their entire command structure." "Could we adapt it to the Indomitable?" Chen asked. Meta frowned. "It would take significant modifications. The Indomitable wasn't designed to channel this kind of energy. We'd need to reconfigure our power systems, strengthen our structural integrity fields, and modify our propulsion systems." "How long?" Chen asked simply. 2 weeks minimum, Meta answered honestly. And we'd need materials we don't have. Specialized alloys, quantum stabilizers, field generators. Chen nodded grimly. Then we'll take them from the enemy. Humanity's revenge. Over the next 3 weeks, the crew transferred all essential personnel and equipment from the Indomitable to the Nemesis facility. The lunar base became their temporary home as they studied the technology and began planning the modifications to their ship. Engineer Meta led the technical efforts, working with her team around the clock. The good news, she reported to Captain Chen after days of intensive work, is that the facility contains fabrication equipment that can produce many of the components we need. The bad news is that we're missing critical materials, particularly quantum stabilizers and certain rare elements that weren't stockpiled here. Where can we find these materials? Chen asked. Security Chief Dalton, who had been analyzing Zarketh fleet movements from the data they had gathered, spoke up. There's a Zarketh mining outpost in the Ta City system. According to our intelligence, they're extracting exactly the type of materials we need. Ta City is firmly in Zarketh-controlled space, Lieutenant Commander Nakamura pointed out. Getting there would be risky enough. Stealing from them would be suicide. Not if they don't know we're there, Tactical Officer Khan said thoughtfully. The Indomitable's shuttle was designed for stealth reconnaissance. With some modifications, we could potentially slip in undetected. Captain Chen considered their options. The Indomitable was in no condition for a direct confrontation with Zarketh forces, but the shuttle might have a chance. Prepare the shuttle for a covert operation, she decided. Lieutenant Khan will pilot, with Security Chief Dalton leading the ground team. Your mission is to infiltrate the mining outpost and secure the materials we need. As preparations for the mission began, Chief Engineer Meta continued her work on integrating the Nemesis technology with the Indomitable. Each day brought new challenges and breakthroughs. The crew, despite their exhaustion, felt a growing sense of hope. For the first time since the Zarketh invasion, they had found something that might give humanity a fighting chance. This isn't just about survival anymore, Captain Chen told her senior officers during an evening briefing. With this technology, we have a chance to strike back, not just hide and hope for rescue, but to actually fight. The meeting was interrupted by an alert from their perimeter sensors. A Zarketh patrol ship had entered the outer edge of the Epsilon Indi system. Have they detected us? Chen asked sharply. I don't think so, Khan replied, checking the readings. They appear to be conducting a standard survey pattern, but if they continue on their current trajectory, they'll pass within scanner range of our position in approximately 5 hours. Chen looked at her team. We need more time here, but we can't risk discovery. Prepare the Indomitable for emergency departure. If that patrol gets too close, we'll need to lead them away from the facility. As the crew rushed to their stations, Captain Chen stood alone for a moment, staring at the glowing Nemesis core. So much potential, so much danger. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe they might actually have a chance against the overwhelming might of the Zarketh Empire. We're coming for you, she whispered, thinking of Earth and all the human worlds under Zarketh control. And this time, we're bringing the storm. The stolen Zarketh transport ship drifted silently toward the mining outpost, its hull marked with Imperial insignia and its transponder broadcasting standard Zarketh identification codes. To any observer, it was just another supply vessel arriving with provisions and equipment. Inside the cramped cargo hold, Tactical Officer Layla Khan adjusted her stolen uniform. The heavy gray fabric felt stiff against her skin, and the helmet partially obscured her vision. 5 other crew members were similarly disguised, their human features hidden behind Zarketh military gear. Remember, Dalton whispered to his team, we need those quantum stabilizers. Nothing else matters. If we're discovered, abort the mission and head to the emergency rendezvous point. The shuttle's comm system crackled to life. Transport Vessel K-17, you are cleared for landing pad 3. Transmit cargo manifest immediately. Communications Specialist Garcia, who had studied Zarketh language patterns extensively, responded in their clipped, formal speech. Confirmed, mining outpost, transmitting manifest now. He sent the forged document they had prepared. There was a tense moment of silence before the outpost responded. Manifest received. Proceed to landing pad 3. The team exchanged relieved glances as their shuttle descended toward the outpost, built into the side of an asteroid rich with rare minerals. This particular outpost specialized in extracting quantum-stable elements, precisely what they needed for the Nemesis system. As they landed, Garcia monitored the outpost communications. Standard patrol pattern. 6 guards on the outer perimeter, unknown number inside. We stick to the plan, Dalton reminded them. Khan and I will present as inspectors while the rest of you prepare the cargo hold. Once we identify the stabilizers, we move quickly. The plan worked flawlessly. The outpost supervisor, a mid-rank Zarketh officer, accepted their inspection credentials without question. The Empire's rigid hierarchy was their greatest advantage. Lower-ranking Zarketh rarely questioned orders from above. These sectors have been underperforming, Dalton stated coldly, pointing to random areas on the facility map. We require access to storage block 7. Of course, Inspector, the supervisor replied nervously. I can assure you any production delays are due to equipment limitations, not worker inefficiency. Storage block 7 contained exactly what they needed, specialized quantum stabilizers designed for Imperial ships. While the supervisor was distracted with Khan's pointed questions about production quotas, Dalton discreetly transmitted the storage codes to the rest of the team. Within 20 minutes, the crew had loaded 4 stabilizer units onto their transport. The supervisor, eager to please the supposed inspectors, even provided them with technical documentation. Their shuttle lifted off without incident, carrying the precious cargo back toward their hidden base. Only once they were safely away did the team allow themselves to relax. We did it, Garcia breathed, removing his uncomfortable helmet. Clean operation. No casualties. Khan nodded, but her expression remained serious. One successful raid doesn't win a war. We had a lot more supplies to gather. She was right. This raid was just the first of many. Over the coming weeks, Captain Chen coordinated a careful campaign of targeted strikes against Zarketh outposts and supply lines. They stole not only materials but also intelligence, piecing together a picture of Imperial movements and strength. Not every mission went as smoothly as the first. 2 weeks later, a raid on a communications relay station went badly wrong when their shuttle was identified as stolen. Engineer Jun Tao took a blast to the chest while covering their retreat. They barely escaped, and Tao died despite Dr. Chen's best efforts to save him. 3 days after that, they lost the shuttle entirely during a desperate raid on a Zarketh shipyard. Lieutenant Sarah Webb sacrificed herself by drawing enemy fire so the rest of the team could escape with the needed parts. Back at the lunar base, the mood grew increasingly tense. Every loss hit the small crew hard. These weren't just colleagues but friends, people they had trained with and relied on. Yet with each raid, the Indomitable grew stronger as the Nemesis system was gradually integrated into its systems. Chief Engineer Meadow worked relentlessly, often going days without proper sleep. The quantum core is stable, she reported to Captain Chen after installing the stabilizers. We've successfully linked it to our main power systems. Weapons integration is next. How much longer? Chen asked, studying the schematics. 1 week, maybe less if our next raid gets us the field amplifiers we need. Chen nodded, her expression grim. The Zarketh are starting to connect the dots. Each raid increases our risk. They've doubled patrols in 3 sectors already. What neither of them knew was that the Zarketh had help from within. Communications specialist Garcia had been secretly communicating with Imperial forces. His family had been captured during the fall of Earth, and the Zarketh had promised their safety in exchange for information. For weeks, Garcia had been careful, passing only small bits of information that wouldn't immediately endanger the crew. But as the Nemesis system neared completion, his Zarketh handler demanded more. Late one night, While most of the crew slept, Garcia transmitted the coordinates of their lunar base. The message was brief, encoded using Zarketh protocols, but not brief enough to escape detection. Security Officer Dalton was running a routine scan of outgoing communications when he detected the unusual transmission. He immediately alerted Captain Chen. The evidence was undeniable. When confronted, Garcia broke down and confessed everything. "They have my children," he pleaded. "They promised they would be spared if I helped." "How long do we have?" Chen asked, her voice cold. "Hours, maybe less," Garcia whispered. A battle group was already stationed in a nearby system. Chen ordered Garcia confined to quarters under guard, then called an emergency briefing. "We evacuate immediately," she told her senior officers. "The Nemesis system isn't fully integrated, but we don't have a choice. Prepare the Indomitable for departure." The crew worked frantically, transferring essential equipment from the base to the ship. Engineer Meta supervised the final connections of the Nemesis core, now installed in what had once been Missile Bay 2. "It's not ready for full deployment," she warned Captain Chen. "The targeting systems aren't calibrated, and the power regulators could overload." "Can it disrupt Zarketh ships?" Chen asked. "Yes, but I can't guarantee for how long or at what range. That's all we need right now." They were still loading supplies when sensor operator Mirai Tanaka's voice came over the comm. "Captain to the bridge, emergency." The tension in her voice told Chen everything she needed to know. When Chen reached the bridge, the main screen showed multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the Epsilon Indy system. 6 Zarketh cruisers confirmed, Tanaka reported, her voice tight. "Multiple fighter squadrons launching. They'll reach our position in 12 minutes. Chen stared at the display, calculating their options. The Indomitable was still connected to the base's power systems. Disconnecting hastily could damage the Nemesis integration. Staying to fight was suicide. "Complete evacuation now," she ordered. "All personnel to battle stations. Disconnect from base power and prepare for immediate departure." As the crew scrambled to obey, Chen turned to Weapons Officer Nakamura. "Arm all remaining missiles. Target the base as soon as we're clear." Nakamura looked shocked. "Captain, we can't let the Zarketh get the Nemesis research," Chen explained grimly. "Everything we couldn't take must be destroyed." The final minutes of evacuation were chaos. Engineers disconnected power couplings while security teams set demolition charges in the labs. The partially installed Nemesis system hummed ominously as Engineer Meta made final adjustments. "It's as ready as it can be," she told Chen. "But I wouldn't recommend using it except as a last resort." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Chen replied, though they both knew it likely would. The Indomitable broke free from the lunar base just as the first Zarketh fighters entered scanner range. As soon as they reached safe distance, Nakamura fired the missiles. The lunar base erupted in a series of explosions, destroying years of research and any hope of the Zarketh discovering the secrets of Project Nemesis. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered as enemy fire began to target their position. "Take us deeper into the system." The Indomitable dove toward the gas giant, using its massive gravity well to accelerate. The larger Zarketh cruisers struggled to adjust their course, but the fighters were another matter. Small and agile, they pursued relentlessly. "Shields at 53% and dropping," reported Lieutenant Tanaka as a blast rocked the ship. "We can't take much more of this." Chen studied the tactical display. The Zarketh were hurting them, using their superior numbers to force the Indomitable toward their main battle group. "Helm, set course 227 Mark 43, she ordered. "Maximum thrust." Sorensen looked back in alarm. "Captain, that leads directly toward the sun." "Do it," Chen commanded. As the Indomitable accelerated toward the star, Chen turned to Engineer Meta. "Prepare to activate the Nemesis system on my mark." Meta's hands flew over her console. "Captain, without proper calibration, I can't guarantee." "We're out of options, Chief. Do what you can." The ship twisted and turned through space, taking hits from pursuing fighters. Shields weakened further. The blinding light of Epsilon Indi loomed directly ahead. "Now, Chief," Chen shouted. Meta activated the Nemesis system. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of energy pulsed outward from the ship, distorting space itself. The pursuing Zarketh fighters suddenly lost formation, their quantum-linked control systems disrupted. Several spun wildly out of control, while others fired blindly, hitting their own ships. The Indomitable shuddered as the energy surge stressed its systems, but held together as it skimmed the star's corona, using its gravity to slingshot toward open space. "Status of Zarketh forces," Chen demanded. "Fighters in disarray," Tanaka reported with amazement. "Cruisers falling back to regroup." The Nemesis pulse worked. It did more than work, Meta said, studying her readings with growing excitement. The quantum disruption is spreading through their network like a virus. Their entire command structure in this sector is collapsing. "What do you mean?" Chen asked. "The Zarketh rely on quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across vast distances," Meta explained. "Our pulse didn't just disrupt the local ships, it sent a cascade failure through their entire network. I'm detecting ships going offline throughout the system and beyond." Chen stared at the tactical display, where Zarketh ships were indeed drifting, their coordinated attack patterns dissolving into chaos. "Are you saying we could disable their entire empire with this technology?" she asked, barely daring to hope. "Not from here," Meta said. "But if we could reach their central command nexus, the hub of their quantum network, we could potentially trigger a system-wide collapse." For the first time since Earth fell, Captain Maya Chen smiled. "Then that's where we're going." As the Indomitable limped away from the battle, setting course for the heart of the Zarketh Empire, Chen gazed at the stars through the view screen. The ship had taken heavy damage. The crew was exhausted, and the Nemesis system needed significant refinement, but they had proven something vital today. The Zarketh weren't invincible. The hunt would intensify now, but so would their resistance. The real war had just begun, and humanity finally had a weapon that could win it. 6 months later, the Zarketh Empire lay in ruins, its mighty fleets reduced to drifting hulks, its command structure shattered beyond repair. The quantum cascade, triggered by the Indomitable at the heart of the Imperial Nexus, had spread throughout their domain, destroying the very technology that had made them so formidable. As Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the survivors of Earth's colonies beginning the long process of rebuilding, she thought of all those who had sacrificed themselves to make this moment possible. "We did it," Nakamura said quietly, standing beside her. "One ship against an empire. They'll be telling this story for generations." Chen nodded. "Let them tell it. Let them remember that humanity was never defeated, only temporarily inconvenienced." Outside the view screen, the stars beckoned. Humanity would rebuild, stronger and more united than before. And this time, they would be ready for whatever the galaxy threw at them next. The lone warship had defied an empire, and won.